Alright guys, HyDra here, and I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, one of the key dramas of the last few days has been what is going on at the Falcons. They trialled a couple of roster changes before these Major 3 qualifiers got underway. They eventually decided to stick with the roster that they originally had. That does not seem to be working out so well so far. A loss to FaZe, a series that honestly, they could well have won if things went different map 3, map 4, and clear frustrations emerging in that camp. Many questions on what words were spoken. We actually now have seen what they said to each other after that series. Exnid frustrated with the rest of his teammates. Are the teammates also frustrated back with him? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We're going to start quickly with Shotzzy because, well, he's now on the Huntsman, and Huntsman have officially qualified for the Elite. So they got through the Elite qualifier, and that means they're in a good position going forwards. Whether they can win the Elite, it's a difficult question. Bush are looking really good. I think it's the 4Fun team with Geo and Wake and those guys. They're looking really good. I think those two teams are going to be pretty tough to beat when it comes to the Elite. And of course, if you win the Elite, then you qualify for the Pro-Am. If you don't, then you don't, right? So, of course, the teams can still go to Major 3 in Atlanta and play in the open bracket, but you really want to qualify. There's not too many Pro-Am tournaments. There's the World Cup, the Esports World Cup is a Pro-Am, and 4 teams will qualify for that as well, but we've not had like a CDL Pro-Am in some time. This is one of them, and, well, there's only one team, basically, that will qualify for it from the North American side, apart from the teams that have already made it for, well, basically Beans and Afro, that team they qualified, right, P7 Notorious, back in Birmingham, because they're based out in the States right now. Eric Boom and Diamond Con, Afro's left and Snoopy is in. That's that team that's going to go. Rocky Sports from Europe already made it as well. Stallions were playing some scrims. Stallions looking pretty good. As I say, there are some clear favourites, you could argue, for the Elite and which team's going to qualify for the Pro-Am. But maybe there could be some wild cards in there, right? Of course, this is arguably the best team that Stallions have put together in some time with Icons. Obviously kind of controversial, as Zuma admitted at the time, because Icons screwed over Doug earlier this season and all that. But as we know, they are at least a team, rather than like 4 individuals, as Zuma discussed at the time, and they were playing the FaZe Falcons, and they got a pretty clean result, 7-1. We also saw Stallions play Bush, and they won that scrim set as well, 5-3. So this is pretty notable, I would say, at this point. They lost the Sake, but they won the other hard points 4-1. They lost 2 of the 3 overloads. That is also a good story, I think, for the Bush, that they're actually winning a couple of overloads here and there, because that was not a game mode that they were getting close to winning not that long ago. So, you know, the fact that they were at least focusing to some degree, the Bush boys, on their overload and actually winning some, maybe Stallions aren't the best at it, but you know what I'm saying, right? Because that was a big reason why they were just nowhere at Major 2, was that their overload was terrible, and they just didn't try. So, you know, it looks like this stage they're actually trying, which should be a good thing. What do you guys think about the map set as well? We've seen it for the first weekends, and we saw plenty of the new maps in action. I think Gridlock has been a great watch. We've actually seen a ton of series with both Fringe and Plaza Search and Destroy. So those are maps that are getting picked. Of course, the pros have decided to GA Clifftown. So, and look, if the pros aren't going to play Clifftown, okay, maybe the CDL just has to admit, all right, guys, you won the war. We threw it in. You weren't happy about it. You decided to GA it and never play it. But, you know, they are able to change it out for something else as well. And then I guess we'd see, like, if they put something else in for Hardpoint instead, there are other options they could throw in, whether the pros would just GA that too, because it's kind of part of my suspicion that the reason why the pros GA'd it is because they don't want to scrum another map. Like, they just don't want to put in the extra 10 minutes of work every day, and they'd rather not. So, I don't know, I think, because they don't scrim much Search and Destroy. They play some occasional chals and stuff, but, like, that's not as big of a deal in their practice. But an extra map to practice in scrims, that's a big deal. I mean, Scrap talked at length about it, that he was like, damn, we can't possibly make it 6-6-4, because that means I've got to do an extra 20-30 minutes of work every day, and we can't be having that. So, that's what I'd be interested to know, is if they actually, like, let's say they put in the best possible map ever. Let's say they put in Raid Hardpoint. They said, all right, lads, we've fixed the spawns and Raid Hardpoint's coming in, which they could do. I half feel like the pros would GA that as well. Anyway, that's one perception, but I think it has been a breath of fresh air. I mean, Sake especially has been great to watch. Fringe Search and Destroy is just generational as far as I'm concerned. We need more. We could have more. I mean, Hacienda is coming in soon. We could bring that back as well. I'm not so bothered. I mean, we saw plenty of Hassi last year, so it's whatever as far as I'm concerned. Still want more BO3 maps back though, because like, I don't know. It is, you guys know how it goes. Anyway, let's talk about Falcons versus FaZe Vegas, because this was a very important series. Probably like the only interesting series yesterday. I think that, Boston series was always going to be pretty dead, and then of course OpTic versus Cloud9, it is what it is. But Falcons versus FaZe, this could have gone either way. We know that Falcons are a team with a lot of potential. In many respects, they're kind of what we thought they would be, right? Like, they're a mid-pack team with upset potential. I think that was the perception of Falcons before the season began, and that's pretty much where they sit in the Pro League right now. But they flirted with roster changes a couple of times. We thought they were going to do it after Major 1. It was at least a rumour on the table. It wasn't like a huge rumour publicly, but I think they certainly thought about it. And then Major 2, similar story, right? Like, they've also got very close to making a change. They had QK, who was their Challengers Reaper, their Saudi Challengers Reaper. He came in alongside Celium, but that didn't really work. And you're not going to drop Cell, you're paying him 900 bands. So he's there to stay. So then what do? Well, the plan was put KiSMET to a sub, which I think it is the play, right? Like, KiSMET looks pretty good. He looks better in that role. I mean, look at the damage that he dropped on this series. But then what do you do with Exnid or Pred? And the logic seemed to have been put Pred on the sub, and then maybe you replace Exnid with QK or something, but that didn't really work. So then it's like, well, I guess we'll try a role change, and we'll still put Kiz on the sub alongside Pred, but Exnid will now be the flex. And, maybe that's not looking too bad on some level. The problem, I think, is that in terms of a chemistry perspective, it looks like it might just be chalked. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is true. When you've played around with different rosters, you've trialed different players, then you come back into the Pro League and you start off the week 0-2, it's just very difficult to maintain any kind of chemistry. If you've had like some sort of internal friction and then you start winning, then, it papers over the cracks. But when you've had the internal friction and then you keep on losing, it gets even worse. FaZe this series, Abuzah, Drazah and Simp all had 100 kills. That I thought was pretty impressive. Simp he didn't have like the most insane series, but like he did have some very crucial moments this series, one of which we'll have a deep look at here in a second. But the point is that after the Game 1 Colossus, which was dominant for FaZe, the Game 2, they won the Fringe Search. Obviously, FaZe have been dominant in Search and Destroy recently, but Drazah had 1 kill this map. He had a ton of damage, to be fair, for 1 kill. But anyway, Falcons actually won the Fringe Search. They went to a Scar Overload, which they very easily could have won. And the Scar hardpoint was super winnable as well. KiSMET was 44 in 31 for the loss. So this was the key. I mean, Abuzah, by the way, I think he deserves a ton of credit as well. What he's continuing to do this season is super impressive. But this was the Search and Destroy that they won. I will say, by the way, Exnid was on the sniper. And we've talked about this at length on Dope Check, that why are Falcons not running a sniper? It's such a no-brainer. We thought maybe Celium could do it, but it looks like Exnid, he is actually the man to get the job done. So this is one point, is that he was hitting some really nice shots on this Fringe, and that definitely changes the game, and it has changed the game for Falcons when it comes to actually winning a Search and Destroy. There was a super mixy ending of this, of this overload, as you can tell. It goes 4-4. But in the end, FaZe get 4 dead when it matters. Exnid gets stuck top window here. He gets pinched. 4 go down, and FaZe get the capture, and it just sneaks into overtime before they get the 5-4 win. So brutal way to lose the map. You can see Exnid's frustrations painted all over his face, and it was a very similar story after the map 4 as well, because this is the way that the map 4 concluded, and Falcons looked to be in prime position. I mean, first of all, there was a team nade that came through, unfortunate, but actually, in many respects, it shouldn't have mattered, because they got the kills. I mean, look at this, right? At this point in the game, Falcons 237, 241, they've got everyone dead, all the FaZe boys are coming off spawn. Exnid is mid holding the cut, and it's difficult to imagine how Falcons actually lose it from here, right? There are only 10 seconds to go, but the nade comes into the hill. That was a big opening for sure. And then, well, what was notable, and I think what Celium or Exnid was talking about afterwards, was what KiSMET decided to do next. Now, crucially, Exnid then gets gunned in mid, Celium gets naded out of the hill, he gets picked, everyone goes down, and FaZe break in and win the game. But this was like such a winnable moment that collapsed in a couple of seconds, and understandably, there was lots of frustration on the Falcons. You can see the immediate reaction here. KiSMET's obviously not happy, Cel and Pred aren't happy, and you can see Exnid on the right-hand side making some serious gesticulations discussing his frustrations with the team. And everyone was like, damn, what was he saying? What were they talking about? Well, turns out we actually found out after the series because the CDL put the clip right at the end of their show for the night.
What are we not talking, dude?
Not to flip.
When?
They want all of them green. All of them green, boys. Well, look, all of them green. We did the dick space.
What are we not talking, dude?
Not to flip.
When?
They want all of them green. All of them green, boys. Well, look, all of them green. We did the dick space.
So there's been lots of interesting reaction to this clip because people have been saying, well, look, how many rings do you have, Exnid? And Cel has 1, Pred has 1, KiSMET has 1. So there's 3, and Clayster has 3 as the coach. So, you know, that's the debate. It's like, well, are the team going to get annoyed with Exnid because he's moaning, he's complaining, he's frustrated with what he saw? And I think this must have been a miscommunication type thing, right? Because KiSMET here is number 2, right? So you can see the numbers right at the end of this. If we just go back to have a look at the numbers on the map right about here. So KiSMET's number 2, Pred's number 3, Exnid number 4, Celium number 1. So if we look at the screenshots here as all of this starts to play out, Pred obviously is just, well, you can see number 3, number 1 by the hill, and then you've got number 4 holding the cross. So, look, fundamentally, if Exnid doesn't just get gunned by Simp mid, this could be a different story. But equally, I think Exnid might be frustrated with maybe what KiSMET is doing here. It's a little interesting. Like, everyone's gone down. KiSMET's checked behind him. And I think that's why Exnid is saying, look, they're all green. They're all spawning green. Let's just focus on that. And maybe if Kiz makes a different play, you know, I don't want to be part of, like, the cheese that says, oh, like, Exnid's only got 0 rings and 0 success championship-wise, so his opinion is irrelevant. Like, obviously it's not, right? Like, if he's right, then the team should listen to him, obviously. But it's just, I think the conversation is more than is Exnid right or wrong to, like, criticize whatever happened at the end of the map. The point is the team getting too frustrated with the state of affairs? I think that's what's more relevant here. Because we don't know exactly what happened in the comms. As KiSMET said, some sort of miscom, like, you know, we're not talking to each other and all this. And Exnid was like, look, you should have been watching green. I think maybe the implication is, why were you turning around here? Why weren't you trying to push up to the plane maybe to help me with a gunfight that was happening mid? You know, that's maybe justifiable. But equally, whatever the case is, those kind of frustrations boiling over and losing 2 very close and winnable maps in the way that they did, that can't be good for team chemistry, which is clearly already at the breaking point. So, yeah, very much interested in your thoughts on all that stuff in the comment section below. Just one final thing, T2P, they put together their top 10 players of all time the other day. What do you guys think about this? It's pretty interesting. Crim, Karma, Scump, Clay, Shotzzy up to number 5 ahead of Formal. I think this is often when you look at this stuff, obviously Simp, aBeZy, Aches, and then Dashy sneaking in as well. There's a few other names that you could throw near enough this conversation. But I think we've been talking for some time. It's like, well, what does it take to break into the top 5? And also, what would it take to break into the top 3 with Crim, Scump, and Karma? Whatever order you want to put that in. And, you know, I think Crim, Scump, Karma, Clay, Formal in some order has typically been the right top 5 for some time. But they've got Shotzzy breaking into it for now. So, yeah, very much intrigued to your thoughts. I mean, I say for now, it's not like you can drop out of it because the other guys are retired. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.